bathtubs. I'm realizing I'm gay and I like musicals. What more can I say? And it scarred me for life. Hello YouTube, my name is Merritt and I'm focused on finding the worth in every story out there. This video in particularly though is going to be the films that shaped me as an artist. Maybe sometime in the future I might talk about other forms of media that have shaped me as an artist, but as you can tell looking at me with my elf ears and choice in background and lighting equipment for my desk in my bedroom, I'm a little extra. I think there's something to be said about being a little extra from time to time. I think that it's warranted, and honestly, I love looking into the way that artists do things. I love looking into the possibilities of what you can do, especially on a budget, and I really like movies. I've talked about them so much on this channel, but I haven't really dug into any of them in particular, and I definitely plan on doing so in 2021. So here we go. 5 films that helped to shape me as an artist. Number 5, The Rocky Horror Picture Show. This one's as low in the list as it is, only because of the fact that I didn't see it until my freshman year of college. So I was 18 years old, probably about a week on campus, and decided to audition for a shadow cast production of the show, having never seen the movie and not really having a good idea of what a shadow cast is. So I basically walked into a room full of people who were the biggest weirdos on campus, who were half clothed and doing very accurate representations of a movie that I had never seen in my life. It was the first time I really understood what a cult following for a film was, and it was like the first time that I really felt like I needed to understand something and wanted to be a part of it that much.
A figment of the imagination.
This movie started a 7-year-long Halloween tradition for me that I hope to keep for a long time, and got to continue doing this year for my 8th year of celebrating the Rocky Horror Picture Show in a new form with the Rocky Horror Picture Show Readathon. It's really hard to put into words my love for this movie. It gave me some of my best friends my freshman year, but it also gave me some of my best roles on stage and showed me a lot of confidence in myself that I didn't know that I could have. So having played my dream role along with several other roles in the show, been a part of 4 different casts, and just gotten to produce the show twice, it's been a big deal for me. It was actually pretty much the catalyst that got me and 8 of my friends to start a nonprofit. That was actually during my gap year between my undergraduate and graduate degrees, which is also significantly the time that I was most active on YouTube last. So most of my videos with the red hair are from that era. While I personally have a lot of life moments tied to the show, it also taught me a lot artistically. The movie really showed me that you don't have to make something that is perfect and polished or even make sense to have people like it and to identify with it. The show has so much representation in it in very strange ways. It definitely has its flaws, don't get me wrong, but the community that's been built around it is based off of not only celebrating those flaws, but making fun of them and pointing out how that is not indicative of how we want to live our lives. It's really this kind of re-owning culture, and in essence, it's so gay. It's so gay. I feel like I could pretty much throw out everything else I said about Rocky and just show you a picture of any of the characters and go, it's so gay, and that would be an excellent representation of why this movie is so impactful for me. Plus it's a musical. I'm wearing elf ears on YouTube. Is anybody surprised I'm a theater kid? For number 4, we have Poltergeist, a film that my mother made me watch when I was 6 years old. I still do not know why. I remember her telling me it was one of her favorites, and my sister and I were very young, and for whatever reason, she had us watch it, and it scarred me for life. I think that was actually one of my first instances with true horror movies. I was very young, obviously, so it would make sense that I wouldn't have watched many prior to that. I know looking back at it now that all the practical effects that were in it are not scary. I can rewatch that as an adult and say, no, this is not scary. But the images that are burned into my brain from when I was 6 still precede the actual reality of the movie. There's a far scarier version of the demon in the closet burned into my brain than what is actually on film if you were to go back and watch it now. It is never going away. Because of this movie, I have really found a deep love of not only horror, but the paranormal. The aesthetic of it is something that I really like. I like that kind of dark stuff, but also I really like practical effects. Being a LARPer, a stage director, and having worked in haunted houses before, I really appreciate the value of good practical effects, and for its time, making a poltergeist situation like that, where demons come out of closets and people wind up in bathtubs full of blood, that's not easy to pull off, and they were working with what they had, and I think it did a very, very good job, especially because it scarred me, so like, clearly it did something right. I think this is also the movie that made me fall in love with unreliable narrators, unreliable characters in general. I don't know why Poltergeist had sequels. I pretend they don't exist, but looking at this one on its own, just the concept of the haunted house on its own, there's so much about it that you can just look at and be like, wow, I would never believe you if you said that to me. And that's just something I love. My 6-year-old brain, while watching that movie, I think was trying to find a way to explain it away. So I'm pretty sure it was from that point on that I really started my love of analyzing movies, trying to figure out how they make things happen, and just how I can tell a story like that, because I needed to make it so that the story wasn't real, so I could just, calm down. It's why I don't like aliens. Okay? I can't explain them away, so it freaks me out. I'm just now realizing how ridiculous this list actually is. My next movie is Rent. Rent broke the top 5, alright. So we've already had one musical about embracing your sexuality. Let's have another. Is anyone surprised? I certainly am not. I'm gay and I like musicals. What more can I say? In actuality, this was one of the first musicals that I really became obsessed with. I think the other ones were Annie, Chicago, and High School Musical. Particularly Rent stuck with me and did not like my sister and the rest of my group of friends because of the themes surrounding it. Growing up, my family was like, oh, you're just the ally with all your friends are gay, weird. Is it weird? When I watched this movie, I was under 13 and had no friends who were out. I just found something in every character that I really liked. Rent really showed me that you don't need a plot to have a good movie. It's just life. Each and every single one of them is dealing with something major, whether it's AIDS or just trying to get by in the world. Not a single one of them is untouched by something. It felt real. Even when songs happened, the way it was shot made it feel like the first opening song was not just a song that everybody was singing. It felt like a protest, like a chant that people are saying rather than all of them suddenly knowing a song together. Tango Maureen reads like a fever dream. Maureen's songs are a drama queen doing a protest and then yelling in front of an entire engagement ceremony, which just seems like something she would do. Mimi mostly sings when she's on stage. Roger is a singer, and the way that Collins and Angel do most of their stuff, it feels more natural than anything. La Vie Boheme is a good example of it, where it doesn't feel like everybody just suddenly knows the song that they're specifically making up to mock Benny. It feels more like this is a song that this generation would know, and because Mark starts singing it, they know to join in. It's a mess. It is a total mess, and that is what makes it feel real, and that is why I liked it so much. That movie taught me a lot about realism and depth of character, but it also taught me a lot about mixed media. Each of the characters has a different form of media and a different way of communicating and storytelling to them. There's dance, there's spoken word, there's singing, there's music in general, and of course, there's Mark with film. And I'm pretty sure this was the thing that inspired me to want to do film. The film really showed a lot of ways of how you could tell a story without just following the normal plotline structure. I really am coding what kind of gay I am. The next 2 movies are horror movies, which means this entire list is horror and musicals. One of them is the merger of the two. It's literally horror, musical, horror, parody of a horror story musical. I'm pretty sure this next film really influenced my love of prosthetics and just kind of the fae and that kind of mystical element. It also used a lot of practical effects, a lot of makeup, a lot of set design, and just cool lighting in general. And that film was Pan's Labyrinth. I had a little bit of a weird experience seeing this movie, as it is a Spanish film that I saw in a French class with English subtitles on it. But I wound up buying a copy of it at Walmart one year that I guess was English dubbed or something, and I used to watch it all the time. I have no idea where that DVD went. The mysticisms of the sets, the horror themes juxtaposed against reality, knowing that it was set during like the Nazi era, but it feels both older and so young at the same time. I don't know what it is about this movie that just kind of grasps my attention. I rewatched it recently to see if I still wanted to include it on this list, if only because it holds the same mystical elements while also just holding in this kind of really rigid sadness to it. And this reality and the ending of the film can be taken in so many ways. It has this kind of Inception element to it where you can view it as the girl gets what she wanted, or these are her last thoughts. I'm trying so hard not to spoil it for anybody who hasn't seen it, but at this point, I feel like you should just expect it. And then there's the film that everyone seems to associate with me, and I don't know why, but it's The Shining. There are some beautiful cinematic elements in this. I watched this one pretty young as well. I do know now so many issues with the directing and the way that this film was produced, and of course it is based off of a Stephen King novel. I understand that. But I'm not saying that these are my all-time favorite films ever. I'm saying they are ones that helped shape me as an artist, and this film really pointed out a lot of visual techniques that I really like, and again, my deep love of unreliable narrators. As we watch Jack fall apart at the seams, that is the kind of story that I just sink my teeth into, and those are the kind of stories that I like to tell. If you've ever come in contact with any of my characters, whether that's at a LARP, at a tabletop setting, or in one of my stories, you will probably recognize that they're all unreliable in some way. Whether that is a literal child or somebody who is currently being messed with at a massive level and gaslit, it is just a theme that I really like working with, especially because I think it's a theme that I've dealt with a lot in my life. Most of the narratives that I've enjoyed have had this element in it as well. Along with that, being able to create scenes that line up exactly but have elements in them that don't exist is something that I have played with a lot. Knowing the scene about Jack and the old woman in the bathtub. There's a lot of bathtubs, I'm realizing. This has directly inspired me to write stories where there are characters on stage that don't exist. I have written multiple plays where characters are figments of people's imaginations, ghosts, or just ethereal beings that other people cannot see. And most of these movies have an element of that. Even though Rocky Horror Picture Show has an element of that. I think the only one that doesn't is Rent, but even then, because of the time period that it was at, so many of them are seen as unreliable because they are bohemians in the 90s. Though overall, I think that The Shining gave me a real love for color, for setting, and just creating that atmosphere. There are so many little details that went into play in this film, whether that's the pattern on the rug or the way that certain characters just stand in shots for split seconds. And as time has gone by, it has really shown me how not to be a director. So there you have it, 5 of the films that have helped create me as an artist. I will be making a part 2 of this sometime in the future, and eventually I think I might create some versions of this to include other kinds of media that have helped create me as an artist as well. If you've seen any of these films, let me know what you thought of them in the comments section down below. And while you're at it, tell me a film that has helped create you as an artist. Remember that your story is worthy of some merit. I will talk to you all soon. Bye.